Well, that's you.
Gotta go there. Go down, get your popcorn,
Technical difficulties.
get your beer, shut off the get your popcorn, get your beer, get your soda, because it's Wednesday night, April 28th, 2021, and this is What's Happening Dracut. We have a great show for you here tonight. We thank you for joining us here on Dracut Access Television, where we are coming live to you from our awesome studios down here on Mill Street in Dracut, Massachusetts. I'm your host, John Zimini, former Dracut Selectman, served 9 years on the Board of Selectmen here. It was a rocky 9 years, topped the ticket all 3 terms, but I loved doing it, and I'm back at it over here at Dracut Access Television, having our show along with my co-hosts. And I have some very interesting guys here tonight that we always have with you. And tonight we're going to start off with Richard Silvio.
Oh boy, hello John, how are you?
I wanted to scare you a little bit there, Richard. So tonight, Richard,
Yes.
you have a great segment coming up.
Tonight, yes, you know what, it's unlike what I normally do, it's a rather humorous segment.
Very good.
We call it Where's Waldo? It's going to be very eye-opening, so I can't wait to get that going.
Very good. And then we have Phil Thibault, who's running for selectman here in Dracut, and he's running a very aggressive campaign, doing a lot of things that he hasn't done in the past.
Yes.
And Phil, tell us a little bit about that right off the bat.
Well, you know, it's been fun. Some of the best advice I've ever had was just be yourself, and that seems to come fairly natural to me. So
there you go.
Looking forward to it.
There you go. And we have our resident computer expert here, who's all-around guy, nice guy, and he is married to the lovely Jennifer Scott. Gordy Scott. How are you, Gordy?
And I know my wife's watching, but I'm a little tired. She said I came to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh.
And
You
she
have
said-
a special segment tonight
Yeah, and I'm a
that
little
we don't
upset.
even really know what's in it.
I asked you guys for about 5 minutes to do my special segment. You guys don't know. I hope you don't get mad at me after the segment, but I'm a little worked up.
Well, that's
I'm a
okay.
little worked up.
We are, we are free speeches here, but remember one thing, guys. It's our show. We can shut it off if we want to shut it off.
Bingo.
Right? So, but guys and gals out there in viewership land, you guys are in for a good show tonight. We got a lot of clips, a lot to get to. We're going to get to it right away, but we just want to let you know that we're here for you. We're here to protect you, the taxpayer, businessmen, and just whoever else is out there that thinks they need a little bit of protection. Give us a call. Send us an email through what'shappeningdracut@gmail.com, and we'll get on the case for you and try to investigate something and put something together to expose any wrongdoings within the town or anything good. We like to put some good things on there. Today we have a congratulations on our Facebook page for the Pirates, I think it was.
Yeah, baseball team.
Baseball Pirates.
Yes.
Are they Little League or is
Yeah.
it Babe Ruth?
I think it's Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. But anyways, we congratulate them on their first
They
win.
gave us a little shout out there.
They gave us a shout out and a hashtag, so
Yeah.
I said we're going to put it out there tonight. But you can also view us on Channel 8 through Comcast in Dracut. And if you can't get Channel 8 because you don't have Comcast and you don't pay for cable and you have whatever, you do Roku or whatever you do, you can find us on Dracut Television or DracutTV.org. Phil looks at me every time I do
YouTube.
that.
Don't forget
He
our YouTube.
throws me off on that
Dracut
one.
the letters TV.
Dracut the letter TV.
Or go to YouTube and look up What's Happening Dracut.
There you go.
Subscribe to our channel and
how does
never miss an
somebody do that?
episode.
How does somebody do that?
So just go to open a browser, go to youtube.com and type in What's Happening Dracut. Well, our channel will come up. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Every time we go live, you'll get a ping on your phone saying we're live, and you can watch us whenever we go live.
And that's
We have
awesome.
we have special episods too that we do. We go out
Yes.
in the street on the
Right.
YouTube page
And-
that
but
you
the
don't see here.
The other thing is you don't have to. The subscription costs nothing.
Right.
It's just a thing to subscribe to it. And
Click a
it's
button,
good.
that's all
Just
it
to
takes.
Click a button and you're on our YouTube page, and we're going to push that and try to get more stuff on that thing. That's new with technology to me.
Right.
But we are live streaming on Facebook, and we're going to keep going that way. But before we get started, we want you to know that you can join into the conversation by calling us at 978-957-4243. Our screeners here will absolutely screen your call. We want to be careful because this is a live show. We don't want any mess ups, and we're going to make sure that we screen the calls and get a name, and we're going to get you out there. We don't care if you push back. There are some people that we won't let on because we know they're only out to submarine us, and so there's no use in having a real conversation with anybody like that. So, but if you have pushback, you have a differing opinion, we're all for it. So, before we get started, we have in the house tonight our resident weatherman from Mill City Weather, Sean Kelly. Take it away, Sean.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me once again. And here's the forecast starting off with tonight. 51 degrees we're going to drop down to. So a lot of locations, especially in the Merrimack Valley tonight, will be in the low 50s. Showers around and even a chance for a few thunderstorms as we head through the evening tonight. Most of that should be tapering off as we head around 10 or 11 o'clock later on tonight. And then as we head into Thursday, a few showers are likely, especially in the morning hours. Kind of a misty rain, a lot of clouds around. A few breaks of sun are possible later on in the afternoon hours as we head through the day on Thursday. 60 degrees for high temps, so it won't be that bad for this time of year, of course. And the wind's not going to be that bad either, 5 to 10 miles an hour. As we head into Thursday night, early showers, clearing as we head through the evening hours. Winds are going to be staying 5 to 10 miles an hour. And then we have a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. So again, Thursday, 60 degrees for a high temp. And as we head to Friday, we're going to be holding to around 70 degrees. And next week, it looks very nice as temps are going to be once again back into the 60s and even near 70 as we head into middle of next week. And that's the forecast from everyone. Back to you guys in the studio.
Welcome back, folks. Sean is our resident weatherman. He does a great job with the extended weather. Believe me, you won't find a better weather report, I don't think, Phil, will you?
No, absolutely. That's my go-to.
Yeah, it
Sean
is.
Kelly is my go-to for
He is a
weather.
go-to guy because he does the Merrimack Valley and he does a lot of work on it. I asked him to do a little weather report for me when I went on vacation last week down to Florida.
Yep.
And he right on the money.
Really?
Right on the money, you know?
Wow,
Do you
great.
watch him? Do you watch him?
I don't watch that often, no.
But it
when
is
he's
what-
here, I've met him several times when he's here.
great kid,
He's
great
awesome.
kid. And we recommend you watch him. And if you watch Channel 7, he's their graphics guy.
Does your
So
graphics, yeah.
he puts their stuff together. So we're going to start right out with the election, right? We're going to tell people what's
John,
going on.
before we get going,
Sure.
we have a lot of people watching. I certainly want to give a shout out to a lot of these people. I'll use their first names so they don't get in trouble.
Exactly.
But Joey, I guess we know who Joey is.
Yeah,
He's
I
watching.
wonder.
Thanks a lot, Lee. We got Bob watching us, Fred, the ever wonderful Jennifer, of course, and a few other people here. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great for you to tune in. We are your information source for all things Dracut. So we're going to go right to the first bit of information we want to give people because the election's coming up, and that is going to Gordy Scott for what we're doing with the election and what time, when is it ready to go, and early voting and all that stuff.
Can you believe it's already this weekend?
This weekend it starts.
It starts. Early voting starts this weekend. Phil must be excited over there.
Saturday.
Absolutely.
Phil doesn't get excited much,
Absolutely.
but I can see that he's got a little
Absolutely.
flush in his face.
The chair's shaking a little, I think.
So the early voting starts Saturday. If you guys want to bring up my screen here too, so people can see this. Saturday, May 1st, from 9 to 2. Let me make that a little bigger for you.
Yep.
And Sunday is May 2nd from 9 to 2. And then we have Monday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, which is May 3rd, 5th, and 6th from 8:30 to 4:30. And then obviously Tuesday, you can also vote, which would be May 4th from 8:30, that's the long one, to 7 p.m. And then normal voting would be Saturday. We also have in-person on Election Day, Saturday. They changed Election Day this year to May 8th, and that's from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Great. So they can also vote by mail, correct?
Yes, they can.
And you can get an application for mail-in vote by going to the Secretary of State's web, or
It's actually on the Dracut website. I pulled it right here, so
There
you
you
just
go.
click this link here, vote by mail application.
you
You
go.
fill out the application, sign it, and send it back. You can send it by mail, or you can scan it and email it to elections@dracutmass.gov. Or
Or-
there's a drop box next to the handicap parking at Town Hall, or you can just walk into the town clerk's office and hand it to her.
And if you prefer, you want us to hand you one, give us a call, send us an email, send us a message on our Facebook page, and we'll be happy to deliver one to you. That's an application, not a ballot. We're not going to so we will deliver it to you. So, and if you need rides to the polls, we're going to be offering rides to the polls to anybody that wants to go. Now, I know with COVID there's a little bit of a danger and what have you, but I'm fully vaccinated. Phil is not yet, are you?
I've had one. I'm having my second one
Yep.
next week.
And Richard is...
I'm passing.
He's passing. And
I have my second one coming up 2 weeks after.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yep.
in 2 weeks you have it?
Yep.
Oh,
My
okay.
second one.
But I am fully vaccinated, and I'll be happy to, just email us what's happening, Dracut, or put it on our Facebook page, or go to my Facebook page, John Zimini on Facebook, and I'll be happy to try to give you a ride. We'll keep you in the back. I'll wear a mask, and I'll disinfect after you leave the car. No offense. So we want to get right into some of the things that are going on, or that have gone on over the last few weeks in this election. Let me tell you, folks, this election has gotten, as usual, down and dirty. And of course, the opposition and the cabal, the lucky cabal on Lakeview Ave, which, by the way, it's confirmed where the headquarters for Joe Dracut is. And if I had the time, I didn't have the time today, but I do have a picture of it. There's a sign out in front of the Lucky Oil Company on Lakeview Ave, and that is where the headquarters is. And it's unfortunate that, we have to say that, but it's the fact. And you can look at that anytime you want. Am I right, Phil?
That's right.
Yeah. Gordy, do you go by there? You see
I've
the same
seen it.
thing
Yep.
all the time? And I guess his slogan is continue moving the town forward at a snail's pace. At a snail's pace. 16
He
years.
forgot to add a snail's pace.
Yeah,
by the way.
16 years and nothing. But the rubbish has started, and we're going to get into some of that. But we wanted to introduce the first thing we want to talk about tonight is trashing at DATV. The trashing down here at DATV is not DATV doing the trashing; it's people trashing DATV. And I want to qualify this right off the bat, that I am speaking as a private citizen and a producer of a show called What's Happening Dracut. I'm not speaking as a member of the board of directors, nor, Phil, if you speak on this subject, will you be speaking as a member of the board or about Phil?
I would be myself, not representing Dracut Access.
Absolutely. Now, we just wanted to go through a couple of the lies that have been spewed out by another Dracut Access television program involving a guy, Brian Bond, who actually got suspended, and he's been putting lies out there endlessly. So we're going to show you one cut right off the bat. I don't know how long that cut is. Cut one, Gordy, if you can bring that up. And while Gordy's bringing that up, we'll show you how they lie, including Jesse now and Joe, because this is all distraction, folks. Oh, by the way, can you believe, Phil, that Jesse Forcia and Joe Dracut go on the show that trashed them for 10 years?
Oh, it's
How do you spell hypocrisy?
yeah, absolutely. It's,
I
nearly fell off my chair.
Well, a lot of people nearly fell off the chair. I mean, Joe Dracut, Gordy, was continually hammered on that show. Hey, I know I have an axe to grind with Joe, and my axe to grind is purely political, and because he's done nothing, and that's the bottom line. And you know as well as I know that you were on that other show as well as all of us, and trashed him constantly.
Yep. I can't believe. And then they went on his show and said, our show is trash. Believe me, right now I can tell you can call my wife tonight. If this show trashes somebody and their family, I won't be on the show.
Right.
She'll pull me right off, and she's the boss.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we don't trash anybody around here. I don't know what you're talking about.
We answer trashing.
Right.
We answer bombs that are thrown to us.
But we don't start it.
And then we don't start it. And
although I might with my little thing tonight.
yeah, you might. But Joe Dracut said that people on that show, the show that he's on, by the way, because that's what he's talking about, talked about his family. Do you ever recall us talking about any member? Do you know any member of his family? I don't even know his wife's name or his kids' names.
I don't know if he even has kids.
Yeah, he does, but I mean, he talks about them. Yeah, but I don't think I've ever met them.
I wouldn't know them if I walked by them on the street.
Exactly. So to say that we trashed them, but let's get to cut one, which will start the ball rolling. Here we go.
I think this attorney's going to head for the hills once he really. I mean, he's done a lot of apparently access televisions, and Not sure he knew quite what he
What
was
he's
getting
getting into,
into. I
yeah.
could see him
Well, you know,
bolting
I mean,
out of town.
Well,
I mean,
as long as the check clears, I mean, the lawyer will do
True.
whatever, you know.
and he probably
the
could
client
see
wants,
he
but-
could probably see some billable hours here.
Yeah.
Oh, one can just imagine what their attorney fees have jumped
Yeah.
up from.
Well, that's
just
another thing that I always talked about. It's fun, you know. You can say what you want about a private citizen, or and you can sit up here and say, well, if you don't like it, either come on, create a show, or sue us, or tell us where we're wrong. That person has to pay for that lawyer out of their own pocket. The beauty of being on the board of directors is
You're not paying.
you use
Right.
the ratepayers'
Someone
money.
else's money is paying.
There's
for
no
it.
limit.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just spend and spend and.
You can hit the space bar, I think. I just wanted to stop it right there because Jesse Forcia right there outright says a lie. First of all, any attorneys that represent DATV strictly represent DATV and do not represent individuals on that board for any individual show. So like this show here, we don't get representation for anything that we might say or do on this show. So if we were to get sued, we would get sued by individuals, by an individual and individually. But DATV has no responsibility for the content of this show or any show that goes over the air. Richard, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, actually. I think Joe DeRocco certainly has a lot of gall sitting there on DATV talking about attorney fees after the amount of damage he has caused the town over the year. I think that's just, it's hilarious. It really is hilarious.
And Joe DeRocco is part of the reason why we have the DATV is spending so much money on lawyer fees. Him and his other buddy, Brian Baum, they just have cost a ton of money on DATV,
It's gross.
but not nearly as much as Joe DeRocco has caused with lawsuits against the town.
Town of Dracut, it's running at what, 8 or 9 right now?
Yeah. So what are some of them?
Plus some of the ones that were settled. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the first one from 17 years ago when I first got on the board. I served with him about 2 years after he was on the board, and he voted against Dunkin' Donuts on Broadway Road, right? You know why? Because a telephone pole was blocking the view from the exit. Can you believe that? He actually used that for his excuse for voting against a business, an established businessman trying to expand his business. He voted against it for a telephone pole. I ended up, and Ken Kuna was on the board at the time. No, not Ken Kuna, by the way. It wasn't Ken Kuna. It was Jack DiTilio at first, and then Ken Kuna came on. And then we changed it around, and we ended up voting for it because it went to court. Joe DeRocco was deposed for like 8 hours because he's the guy that did it. He's the guy that stopped it, him and Jimmy O'Loughlin. And it ended up being that the court said, go back and settle this because you're going to lose this. So that's one case. Went back, and we voted to allow it, right? That's one. Then you have, we'll fast forward to recently. You have Dave Chartrand, that's a lawsuit. You have Justin George. That is going to be an enormous. Here's a guy, folks, who's a veteran of our United States service, of the United States Army, I believe it is. He might even be a Marine, I'm not sure. But he's a veteran of a war for our country. He comes back and he tries to propose something on the floor of town meeting, which is his right, correct?
Absolutely.
And what happened, Phil?
castigated for it.
Castigated. Totally castigated.
What they're trying to do to Dracut Access TV, because you guys are against them, and so he's using his personal power
Exactly.
to try to take you guys out.
Oh, exactly. So about the lawyer fees, that's a total misnomer. We do not get protected. We only get protected by actions we take as members of that board, directly as members of that board, and what we do as members of
In the
board.
performance of
the
those duties.
but
on
not
the
anything
board.
else. So hit that tape again and go forward. Let's see where it goes.
And until you keep getting the ratepayer money and
So that's what John Zimini had said to me several times, that his lawyer is actually DATV's lawyer. So DATV's lawyer will defend John Zimini. That's one thing John Zimini doesn't want to spend any money out of his pocket, on lawyers. So he's got DATV's lawyers to do his dirty work, and
Stop it right there.
No?
At the expense
So,
of.
yeah, so really, Brian, really, I told you that? You are a bold-faced liar and you know it. But you do it so good because you know what? You're like a used car salesman, right? A used car salesman you can never trust, right? So you go to a used car salesman, the first thing you know is he's already in your pocket, right? So you're not going to go near him, right? But this guy lies. Every time he opens his mouth, he lies. And I just didn't see it for the friendship that I had with this man for all those years. I mean, I pray to God every night for forgiveness for ever being with that guy on a show, because now he's telling people that I used it. You're right, I don't want to spend money. I'm cheap.
Who does? Who
I'm
does?
cheap. You're right. I don't like to spend money. And I also was cheap when I was on the Board of Selectmen. I don't want to spend tax dollars frivolously. And neither do you, right, Phil?
No, and I mean, the build out of the studios that we had here as architect, I certainly made sure that the money was spent wisely, and we get the best efficiency for it.
Oh, we're going to get into that. So let's finish up on that one, and we'll go to
Expensive.
cut two.
Anyone who.
Here we go.
We were talking about earlier is less and less of a pool. Of
Yeah, I think, and that'll continue on. I think this is,
Well,
there'll have to be some other funding mechanism. if
Well, they
it's
have a
these
lot
type
of money
things.
coming in. I mean, they probably sitting on near $1 million over there right now. So, I mean, I don't think they're that frugal of how they're spending it. Let's put it that way. I mean, their attorneys, whatever it costs, it costs. That's it. You know.
Cut that.
Well,
You
it's
can go to
like
cut two. All right, so here's another lie, right?
Could I just answer?
You can.
So he's complaining that DATV is sitting on $1 million, but we're spending money foolishly. Now, how do those two equal out? I think Tony Achinsky brought up a very good point. He said he would be more concerned if we didn't have any money left over in the bank.
Right.
So
Now,
here we are operating good business sense. We have money. We're not spending it all. We make sure that we have money for capital improvements because the Comcast contract doesn't give DATV any money for capital improvement. So that we have to make sure that money is available to us to get new cameras, lighting, stuff like that. So I mean,
God forbid you want to buy your own building.
just the whole idea, though,
be
that
smart.
because you have savings, that you're not a good businessman.
And by the way, there's not $1 million in what he thinks is a slush fund. There's not $1 million. But yet he brags that the town has $10 million in free cash, which I don't think that's true. I think it's closer to $6 million. But even if it is $6 million, why, Joe, aren't you asking the Board of Selectmen to direct the manager to use some of that money towards schools? How about towards police? How about towards fire? How about getting some things done in this town? Or DPW? No, he's sitting on $6 million.
They're going to have to use that for the lawsuits.
Yeah, that's exactly why they can't do it.
Well,
Talks
maybe he
about
needs that extra money for attorney's fees.
That's exactly right. You got cut
Yep.
two up?
Yes.
Let's go to cut two.
It's a little slow.
I'm going to try to get a little bit better
Yeah,
at these cuts.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, I just have a question. You were talking about the lawyers that represent DATV members, and they provide their service free of charge and so forth. I just have a question. On selectmen, protected by...
Hold on one second. Let me clarify. The lawyer doesn't provide free of charge. They bill DATV and DATV.
That's what I just said. The people they represent don't pay anything.
I misunderstood you. I'm sorry.
Right. But what my question is, isn't there a taxpayer-funded lawyer that protects selectmen? We have lawsuits in the town from a cop and a firefighter. Who's paying for that lawyer? Aren't the taxpayers paying for that lawyer?
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, the taxpayers pay for that lawyer.
Cut it right
Well,
there.
it's the same.
We also don't run a
isn't it?
cable
We're
TV
going to go
show.
to cut four after this. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we were just talking about. So they got a caller in. Some women called in. It sounded like a female, and that she's absolutely right. We talked about that briefly about the police and fire. How many other lawsuits are there? Right, Phil? We know of a couple that evolved out of cannabis.
Oh, absolutely. There was an application for a shop on Merrimack Ave, and Joe denied it because he said there wasn't enough parking. They provided some 20 parking spaces when they only need to provide 7. But he didn't think there was enough parking. So, you know, almost 300% more isn't enough.
I used to go get my gas tank, my propane tank
Same
filled
location.
down there, and there was plenty of parking. I don't know what he's talking about.
Hey, we have some breaking news here, by the way. Did you see that Andy Merritt put a post on our thing here that Jesse Vorsier isn't living on Turgeon anymore? So that's interesting news. We'll have to check that out. Where could he have gone? Could it be that my truth might be coming out? What
I'm going to say maybe we'll have another Waldo segment. Where's Waldo?
Yeah, we might
Where's-
have
where's
that too, exactly. The bottom line is, yeah, we just got that sent over to us. And what else? So, yeah, it's just ridiculousness what they've spent on money, on lawsuits.
I just want, what's the
Now,
status of those lawsuits?
Let's go to the next one.
With DATV's attorney, it was John Zimini, Phil Thibault had personal, and Tammy Dristolaris had personal beef with me, and that's why the expense, the lawyers were paying their tab on that. And I don't know, I would think they were probably up in the $10,000, $15,000 range anyway.
Stop it right there,
so,
Gordy.
a little bit different.
You know, here we go again. Another lie. Another lie. Here's a man that came in. First of all, it was in the paper, so we're not exposing anything that's been private. It was in the paper what he did and what he was accused of doing, and he was accused of bringing a gun here on DATV set. And you know, he says it's anonymous. It's not anonymous. He could have found out exactly who it is, and all he had to do was go through the process. And he didn't want to do the process because he didn't think he'd get a fair shot with members of the board. Right? It was not the current board, but we also, as board members, we offered arbitration. He lied by saying they didn't have arbitration. We offered arbitration. He refused it. Yep. Right? Yep. So I mean, it's all BS. What say you?
Well, and I suppose to get to the very start of his comment, I never had a beef with him. So I don't know where he gets
He had a
off
beef
saying
with you.
He had a beef with me, and to be honest, I was unaware of it until he let go a string of expletives and he stormed out of a meeting.
Exactly.
And I looked at, because John was in there too, and I said, what just happened?
We're going to get to that too now. So let's get to the next one. Let's go to cut 3 on how they trash Phil. I mean, trashing Tammy Dristolaris. Are you serious, Tass? First of all, she's an attorney. She doesn't need an attorney to protect her. She knows how to protect herself. She's a very good attorney at her craft. But to trash her and then continually say these lies that we're being protected by the attorneys down here, he knows that's not true. He knows that's not true. But
So let me interject again, because I want to talk about Phil Thibault when he was the treasurer, and because you're talking about the financing, right? And going back towards COVID, when it first started coming out, there was talk about the payroll protection plan. I was actually listening to Mr. Shaw on the radio talking about it, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to look into that payroll protection funds for my company. And I had mentioned it to Gary at the time. I was president. I said, Gary, we should look at this. I don't know what's going to happen with DATV. You know, nobody really knew, right? So everybody could be out of work forever. We might not be getting any funding in. And I said, Gary, we should consider applying for the payroll protection money for DATV. And we did that. And Gary and I talked, and I would talk with the attorney, hey, you know, and I'd have Gary check, can you and I discuss this on our own? And he said, yes, we can. And evidently, Phil Thibault didn't like the fact that we went out and we accessed payroll protection money. And in the end, once we got that payroll money, Phil Thibault was a treasurer. He absolutely refused to transfer or touch any of that money to pay the guys. And because the guys were out of work for a period of time and we were using those funds to pay them. And so he refused to pay that. But then Phil went out and he borrowed the money. He got payroll protection money for his employees. So he felt it was okay to pay his employees with payroll protection money, but he didn't want to use DATV paying for the payroll protection funds.
Stop. So let me set this up right here, first of all. First of all, Brian Bond did tell the truth on one thing there. He told the truth that how he went to Gary and asked Gary to find out about payroll protection plan and getting money to pay our people. Now, we had money in the till. We weren't short on money, but we were entitled to it because we were a business during COVID and we could apply for it. What he doesn't tell you is he didn't get permission from the board the board to do it.
Wow.
He just went and did it. But that's the guy he thinks he is. He's the king. He didn't get permission from the board. There was never a vote until afterwards to keep the money. And yes, Phil didn't think we should do it because Phil is frugal. He thought we had enough money in our till, and he voted against it, right?
So in the spirit of payroll protection, it was there to essentially help businesses that were struggling with their employees. Money wasn't coming in. You could still pay your employees.
Right.
Fabulous program. I mean, the government was trying to get money out as quickly as possible, so they put very small restrictions on it, so almost anybody could apply for it. Mr. Bond had talked to me about it, actually described it as being free money from the government.
Right.
And I said, by no means would I be in favor of it. We don't meet the spirit of what this law is about. We have a steady source of income through Comcast. We get our quarterly payments. So I don't see how that's going to be going down. And of course, he tries to insinuate that, well, you know, if people lose their jobs, they're going to start cutting expenses. They'll cut their Comcast.
By the way,
past experience is that if you lose your job, you spend more money on Comcast because you're watching TV all the time,
right.
You're renting movies. I mean, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff.
But Phil, I want to totally correct him. He said the guys down here were out of work. Nobody was ever out of work. We were working from home,
yep.
And cable TV at DATV did not skip a beat, Gordy, right? Was there any boards of selectmen or anybody else that didn't?
All their Zoom meetings were on hosting.
They were on all the time.
Yep.
They were on all the time.
So immediately, we had our IT guy setting up remote access for all the employees here, so they were able to do all the work that they needed to remotely. And
so the guys and the employees down here were never threatened to lose their job, never threatened to not get paid.
Correct.
I took a different take on it. I wanted us to apply for the PPP because I thought that it was good to have the money, and I'm one of those guys that wants to take money whenever we can and put it away, salt it away, because it's a good business practice to have at least a year's expenses in your coffers in case something, God forbid, happens.
We have another pandemic.
That you don't have the money to go forward.
And so the comment that I took it for my company, yes, I did. I employed 2 people.
Right.
It certainly did not provide enough money to cover them. So I was taking it out of my own personal account to pay them money. Certainly not at the same rate that they were making previously, but I mean, just to say, hey, we got to get through this together.
Now, he did talk about his employees, and but he got that, and on top of that, I remember him telling me that he got a loan from the government too, for, I don't know what it was, how much money it was, but we're looking into that too, because that might have been used wrong. We'll see what happens, but we'll go forward with that later. But they were never out of work, these guys. And the fact that as president, he dropped his fiduciary responsibility to the board at DATV by not informing them or asking them and taking a vote to go ahead until after the fact. And then he goes on to talk about, we haven't done that, he goes on to talk about how you refuse to send the money back. This is the moron that he is.
Well, let's first start. He said I refused to pay the guys with the money. What he wanted me to do was set up an interest-bearing account and dump it in there so we could get interest on our free money and then dole it out as we needed it. And so I said to him, if you're applying for it, just dump it into the payroll account where it belongs. Then it's there for them.
And after we took the vote, and I believe we did that, and you were upset about it, and rightfully so for your own reasons, but the bottom line was there were other things that happened at that meeting too that upset you, but you never did anything to stop the operation of DATV by trying to hold up payroll or anything of that nature.
No.
It's all rubbish, folks. It's all rubbish. That's what they do. Are we still on that, or are we going on to the next?
Next one.
Okay, so we're going to go on to the next one, which is talks about the construction here at DATV. Let's get in. Let's delve into that a little bit, where he trashes you again.
Which one is that?
That's number 13, cut number 13.
Okay.
So I'll set it up, and then you can click it on. And the bottom line is he's talking about Phil being the treasurer and that how he supposedly benefited this large amount of money, for God's sakes, out of a construction here. Go ahead.
Motion about the confidentiality bylaw or clause.
Yes, because my 90-day suspension, which they didn't follow the whole process of letting me,
Is that the right?
go see an arbitrator and follow through on it. They just stretched it out as long as they could so that my 90-day suspension would be up. I was still a board member after,
Might be the wrong one.
while my suspension was up, and then they brought the confidential clause that they wanted me to sign, and I absolutely refused to sign it. There was no way. I was voted in by the members, and if the members want to know something, I'm not allowed to tell them. What are they hiding? Again, I say, Phil Thibault was getting paid for the construction of the studio as a member there, and then he hires his friend to do the engineering, who fails on everything, and he gets paid, and we have to pay $20,000 for people to fix this stuff. So what are they hiding? That's my problem. And I guess, Joe, that's why you were probably asking what was going on as well.
That's exactly it. I asked I asked that question numerous times. Exactly what are they hiding? I don't know.
Okay. What are we hiding at DATV? Phil?
Nothing. And I suppose when there is nothing to look, when you're hiding nothing and there's nothing to see, then I guess Joe's question of, so where is it hidden comes up. I mean,
Exactly.
it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And here's the deal, right, folks? Tammy Dristolaris and John Zimini weren't even on that board. And there was an insinuation, and I think we missed it on that tape, where Jesse says, the AG's looking at everything and they're going to get involved. And then Brian said something about Phil Thibault's going to have a lot of problems down there. And here's the deal with that, right? What he fails to tell you is he was the project manager down here. And he was the president. I wasn't on the board. Tammy Dristolaris wasn't on the board. And Phil Thibault, you recused yourself
myself.
from any votes
Yes.
involving the finances of build-out, right?
That's correct.
So tell the folks, first of all, we know that anything you do, whatever you did here, it's 10 times you get paid, 10 times more.
Absolutely. So, as a matter of fact, the board at that time, when they were asking me to, they asked me to be the architect, and they said, you have to get paid for it. So I said, okay, I'll give you a letter of disclosure, letting you know exactly what my services are, what the fees will be, and I'll get you a written proposal so you can see exactly what I'm planning on doing. And so I wrote up a proposal. It was for $9,500 for all the construction supervision, and everything essentially that would go with the architectural portion. I excluded interior design
Can I
work.
stop you for a second?
Yeah.
There's nothing illegal about that, right?
No, absolutely nothing.
There's nothing illegal
Fully
about
disclosed
that. And the
to all
vote
members
of the board, it's in the law, in the bylaws, the vote of the board could do that, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
That is
okay.
correct.
So you did that. So go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
excluded HVAC work, essentially with MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. And I excluded interior design work, and we can get into that later, I suppose.
Well,
So as we're starting the project, I say to the board, there's a lot of coordination with all the theatrical, electrical that's going on, the lighting, the mechanical work. I think we should have an engineer designing everything. And Brian was saying, no, we should just do it design build because we can save money. First of all, those things really never save a lot of money. Sometimes I suppose they can cost you more because this is all specialty stuff. How many electricians have wired a theatrical studio? I doubt very few. Yeah. I mean, it's very much a
It's not
specialty.
just a 110 outlet on the wall.
It's a very much a specialty. So I wanted to have an engineer on board. I told the board that I would not be taking on those consultants as my consultants. If they wanted to have those, the engineers, I said you would take them on separately. I will do all the coordination that needs to be done with my drawings and their drawings to make sure their work is one.
Exactly.
And I would do that without additional fee.
Right. So you also paid for the.
So as we get further towards the end into design and we're going to start construction, I said, right now we just have bare walls. I think we should be bringing in an interior designer. And I said, they do more than just pick paint colors and carpet samples. They do a lot more. They have an eye for the whole picture and kind of bring everything together. There was discussion. The board decided not to do it. I said, you're really missing the mark on this because it's not going to. It's going to be a lesser project if you don't. Right. And they still refused to do that. So I hired a friend that I had that I had worked with previously. I hired her to come in as an interior designer, and she charged. The proposal was originally for $3,000. And when she found out that I was paying it out of my fee and what my fee was, she reduced it to $2,000. So it's like, well, thank you very much. I mean, here's somebody else donating to this nonprofit organization. So
now, you talked about non-disclosure, right? Which is something you do in a contract, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's talk about, was there a non-disclosure here because Brian mentioned about signing a document saying that you acknowledge that DATV business is DATV business, right? And you're not supposed to disclose it to anybody. That's in any corporation, correct?
Yeah.
Right? So the signature thing only meant that you acknowledged it. Every member of the board except him and a couple others didn't sign it because obviously they're obstinate people, but that's their business, right?
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that it's in the bylaws and it's corporate law. It's corporate law. So if you disclose something, and Brian's done that 1,000 times throughout this whole thing, and that's one of the reasons why he got removed.
Yeah, attorney privileged information that we're talking
right.
with the attorney about.
Exactly. So anyways, they want to talk about all that garbage anyways and go forward with that. We're going to go on to the next cut, which is cut 9, where Joe DeRocco discloses something that shouldn't have been public, I don't think. But go ahead.
It's a little slow. Your USB stick is a little slow.
Okay. A little bit slow here, but we're getting it. I just want to shout out to Moose Morosky. Go ahead.
The spat between the DATV board and the Board of Selectmen. You want to start?
Listen,
since you're the one that sort of...
I did. I know I did. For the life of me, I still can't. I mean, it's just about accountability. I mean, they could have ended this thing so easily, but they chose to go the other route, which baffles me. And now there's a whole bunch of stuff going on over there. I've heard there's whistleblower. I've heard all kinds of stuff over there, and it makes you wonder: are we going to want to sign a contract with them? I just don't know. I mean, why they're going to this extreme is beyond me. It didn't need to happen that way. All we were looking for was, I want to know, I mean, there's a whole bunch of money over there. All I was looking for is so that the people know where their money was going. And why are they sitting on so much money? But, I mean, they refuse to give us the answers. I mean, they don't have a contract. We have the contract. They're probably there by will. I mean, so what we've been looking at is the attorneys are supposedly getting a contract for us to look at. I mean, I think that they're just pushing it off till after election. I think that's another big election thing. They want, if Phil gets in, maybe it just calms the water. But I mean, I think we're at a point where, I don't know, how many weeks has it been, Jesse, that we've asked for it?
I could tell you the last time it was on the agenda. Yeah, it's been a good 6 weeks to at least since we had that meeting. And
Heather and I sit on that. We're supposed to sit on it, as the subcommittee to go over the contract that they're proposing.
Right after this.
We still haven't seen it.
Play the cut that
So
I
Heather
gave you.
said to me after the last meeting, "Have you seen anything?" I said, "Absolutely not." And so, we were told we'd see it in a week. Here it is, 2 weeks later, and still nothing.
The bottom line is they're stalling
Stop it
until
right
after
there.
the election.
Okay, now we have a video that will counter what he just said.
So, yes,
Go ahead, Phil, set it up.
this is very much Joe DeRocco answering his own question from October 27th.
Yeah, and this is, folks, this is all personal. This whole thing has been personal from day one, and you're going to find that out too. We have some comments before you go to that. We have some comments online here about from different people. Angel has made several comments on here. There's a sign on the green by CCU. What's CCU? Credit Union? And is maintained by Dave Paquin. I assume the sign, the Lucky sign, is owned by Lucky's. I don't know what she's talking about there, but I do know that the sign in front of where she's talking about that business is, I don't think that's the town sign.
I don't believe it
But
is.
I believe I think it's dangerous where it is to begin with. But of course, they can get away with anything they want because they're Town Hall West, Let's see what else. We have a couple of other things going on. It's all about control, says Angel, which she's right. Andy Merritt says Jesse and Joe are perfect examples of what's wrong with Dracut. You're absolutely right, Andy. You're absolutely right. Before we go to that video that you have from Phil, right? I wanted to shout out to Moose Morosky and Frank McMahon. Tonight, we don't have a COVID report.
Oh
right?
my God.
You're going to be happy. Right? So let's play this.
So this clip it goes to Joe DeRocco asking. Well, the last clip that we saw, Joe is saying that I haven't seen anything from DATV for a contract. This is the reason why. Here it is.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I will be very brief. I can certainly answer some of Mr. DeRocco's questions and any questions that the board has from a legal perspective. I have reviewed the contracts. The particular cable contract, I think Mr. DeRocco did cite it correctly or recite it correctly. There is a prior contract that specifies, and I didn't bring a copy with me tonight, but the prior contract specifies that upon the designation of the designated access provider, in this case DATV, title to all of the property that and equipment that the Comcast had gets transferred to DATV during the pendency of their service as a designated access provider. It also states that if that designation is terminated, then the issuing authority, the Board of Selectmen and DATV work together to effectuate transfer back to the town or to a new designated access provider. So there are provisions in the contract, the prior contract, that talks about how the equipment gets sent over to DATV. The contracts, both the original and this contract, provide that the revenues from Comcast get paid directly to DATV for the public access channels. So this is all spelled out in the contract. I do think that, and I think DATV has communicated to the board an interest in negotiating a contract because obviously it would help benefit both parties to have everything spelled out as to what the duties and responsibilities are. So we're happy to do that. And, we can, I suppose, take the initiation on that or, await some formal presentation of a proposal, but there's no unwillingness on the part of DATV to do that. I'm happy to answer any other questions the board might have. I'm not sure this is the night to do it because you have a long agenda, but we would be happy to sit down with the board, talk about these issues. We've tried to explain these issues. We presented a fairly lengthy statement outlining the history of DATV and the contracts and how all of this works. And I know it was a long document. I don't know if people had a chance to talk to review it, but we're happy to answer any questions. There's no interest in trying to hide anything. We're trying to follow what the law and the contracts provide. And again, we would be happy to talk about a contract directly between the town and DATV.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
To Mr. Hall, I know the council has referred to the previous contract, but the contract we're under now has been there since, what, 2017? So, I mean, I can go by what I read in this contract, what I read, what was in a previous contract. I don't know if that's material or not. I wouldn't think so. I mean, yeah, I think the contract is not going to be drawn up by, I think the contract will be drawn up by probably our attorney. I mean, we're the ones that have the contract with Comcast. It's up to DATV whether that contract, if they want to accept that contract, is fine, and if they don't, that's still fine. I mean, but that's going to end up being their choice. But I don't think the answer is that they're going to write the contract that we're going to accept. I think the answer is Mr. Hall, through our attorney, will probably be the one who draws up the contract, and we go from there. I think that's the way it's going to work.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to step on any toes there. I was just trying to help move the process along.
What you have.
So we'll move on to the next, but Phil, give us a little bit of enlightening on that.
So you're watching somebody who's very manipulative. So he says one thing, and then as you get further out from it, he says another thing. I mean, I think you've probably heard the term gaslighting.
Right.
This man is a gaslighter.
Exactly. And he just continually stretches things and turns things around. Just like, someone once said that desperate campaign do desperate things. So they throw things out like that. I mean, this whole thing with DATV has nothing to do with the operation of DATV. It has everything to do with free speech. Free speech being a show like this and a show like the Dracut Connection and the show like Bigos and Silvio, and they want to control what goes over the air. And if it doesn't go over for what they want, then they're going to attack you, which is going to bring me to a bunch of things here. But we could go on and on about this for quite some time.
It's certainly very sad that you have somebody in a position like he is, who is manipulating his subordinates or people that he believes are his subordinates.
But he uses that.
And of course, we fight back, and he doesn't like that.
Right. Now, I stopped the other day, Phil, at a friend's house on Lakeview Ave, a person I've known for 20 years. And they don't have a sign on their lawn, and I asked to put a sign out for you. And the woman said to me, she was very, very nice, business lady, says to me, Mr. Zimini, John, she says, I respect you highly. I've always supported you. We like what you did for us and what you've done for us. But she says, with the toxicity at Town Hall and the man that's running against Phil, the toxic things that he does, and I stopped her. I says, forget it. Your vote and your husband and family's vote is far more important than any sign on a front lawn. So I apologized. I wished her good luck. I says, is there anything we can do to ever help you? Don't hesitate to contact us. But that is the kind of toxicity, that's the kind of hatred and fear that is instilled in people around the town by this today.
And I disagree with you a little bit what you just said.
All right.
And the reason I say that is I don't think Joe cares as much about what we're saying on TV shows if we're negative in his light. I think it's a personal vendetta because he's running against Phil.
Right.
And Phil's on the board. He's going to do whatever he can to bring this thing down.
Your 5 minutes are on now, buddy.
So,
because you look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm getting my blood pressure is up.
You're going.
No, so I stayed up last night. As you guys know, you guys are on the board. We never talk. We'll go and have a few drinks after the show. But we never talk about what's going on with Dracut Access TV and what you guys do on the board. So I wanted to get a couple minutes, a 5 minute, because what I did last night, I really didn't know. I've heard, stuff is in the paper, and I see stuff, I hear stuff online, and I haven't really, because I've been busy with my work and basketball stuff, so I haven't watched a lot of selectmen's meetings. So what I did last night, I was up till 2 in the morning, as I said. I went back to June of last year, and I saw Joe Dracut on the screen, and he attacked you, Phil, John, Tammy, and he brought you up by name. I think, kudos to Tony Archinsky, because he said, why are you, I think Tammy was still on the board when it all started. And because he knows that we have a different opinion than him, he's going to do anything he can to take you guys down. Good example is you're running for water moderator. Yes. I have no doubt in my mind that the two people that are out there running against you he talked to him and said run. Or Brian Bond, one of the two.
Right.
So I have no doubt about that. So I watched every episode. He mentions you guys by name. I think in my opinion, it's an ethics violation. I think he's using his power to try to do something negatively, trying to take down an organization. I hope he's taking ethics courses. I think he has to as town selectman. He better take that again, because what he's doing right now, and it's pretty clear. I'll be happy to put a video together and you can see what he's doing. It's obvious what he's doing. He doesn't care anything about Dracut Access, and then he's very critical of Dracut Access, the whole organization. And then as time goes on, he's like, well, the guys down there are good, because he's getting feedback because we know how hard these guys work. It's only because Phil and John Zimini are on this show. If you're on another show, if you were doing something else at an ice cream shop, he'd be trying to take the ice cream shop down.
But he also, just to push back a little bit on you, to tell you that, remember, I first ran against Joe 17 years ago. And rightfully so. He kicked my butt. I was new in town. He was a fire chief for 40 years, in the fire service for 40 years. He was around town and well known. Nobody really knew how mean and vicious he could be. But the bottom line is, he now wants to control speech, because that's what he said. And I think if you go back a little bit further, before... Right. I wasn't even living in town, and he was talking about me and that show, and it was meant Dracut Connection,
right,
where they were talking about him, and somebody down there should control it, and the board. I'm mad at the board because the board is in control, and I even went after Gary Muse, is one of the most highly regarded,
nicest person.
He's one of the most highly regarded access coordinators and directors in Massachusetts. People come to him for information, right? So they're knocking him, all because Joe and Jesse and then Allison Hughes wanted to control content. They wanted to control content.
I'm going to play a video, and I think I'm going to try to change your mind, because you can see here, if he was so concerned about how much money Dracut Access TV has, he's so concerned about all of that, why we have so much money. I'm going to play this video clip right now. And if he's so concerned about it, why doesn't he ask when this meeting happened?
Right. So, but it is about content.
So anyways, before you tonight, you have the renewal of the contract. You also have 4 additional side letters, 2 of which you need to approve, 2 of which are just that we're proposing to be included with it. As far as the proposal for DATV, we met with DATV and had many meetings with them to discuss the percentage that they wanted to request in this contract. The old contract, they were awarded 3.5% in years 1 to 2, and it dropped to 3.25 in years 3 to 5, of which the other 25% went to the Town Technology Fund. And then in years 6 to 10, it was raised to 3.75%. They came in, and with a lot of discussions with us, the committee is recommending that we change the 3.75% for DATV to 4% for the entire 1 to 10 years, and to put the town's technology fund at 0.25% for the full 10 years as well. Looking at our subscribers, we have a little under 10,000 subscribers. It's going to come to an additional cost of about 50 to 55 cents a month. So it's really a very minimal increase. The one thing that was very fortunate, which you won't see in many contracts, and I have not seen one that has not had the local access ask for some capital that is usually a pass-through to the consumer. And DATV has been very frugal with their money and has saved some money over the years, knowing that they want to grow and stuff. And between all of us, we kind of felt that there was enough there for them to do what they needed to do over the next 10 years without asking for additional money from the consumer. My committee, many who are here this evening, Hank Noel, Ted Casivalon, Gordon Lutz, Lou Russo, Len Proposki, and Dave Patnord. So before you have the renewal contract, which I'm sure you all read over the weekend.
That was a very thorough presentation. Any questions? Mr. Dracut.
Madam Chair, did our own town council have a chance to look this over?
I did read it over as to form. I actually worked with the committee 10 years ago and dealt with Attorney August. So I didn't get into the nuances of the agreement, the 65 to 30, but as to form, I approve it as to form.
So you found no problems, whatever?
As to form, but I can't guarantee that whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. I'd have to rely on May's committee, and I've dealt
It's
with
really,
it 10
yeah.
years ago.
And then, and final, I usually start my discussion with this, the Cable Advisory Committee has nothing to do with the rates that are set by Comcast, so, people like to, we say, does anybody have any complaints? And that's usually the complaint, and I'm like, well, we don't control that. So we can only control the language in the contract and the support for DATV.
I think I speak for the rest of the board. Thank you for all the hard work that you did in the committee. And I did read the contract over the week, and I found it to be fascinating.
We'll vote on the actual contract first. Do I have a motion to accept the contract as written? Motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Now, I believe Joe DeRocco made the motion.
Seconded.
it? Okay.
So if he was so concerned about how much money we have, why didn't he ask the questions there? Why didn't he say, hey, these guys got a lot of money. Why are we raising this up to 4%? Why is this? Why? But he didn't ask the question then. And the only reason he's asking the question now is because you two sit on the board of directors.
Well, that's one of the reasons. You're right. You're right that we're there, and they're obviously got a reason to do it, to go after us because but you got to really, when you start researching those tapes, when he stood up on the floor of the selectmen, and when you were on the show with Brian, and I was on the show with Brian, and Phil was on the show with Brian, he got up during the show. It was after that contract was signed that he started going directly at us because he thought that one of us was going to be running against him,
right,
and he wanted to get rid of us. And he continually talked about the content of that's very important, Gordy,
right.
Because I remember distinctly, and I have some video at home. But
and Tony Archinsky says you can't go after the content.
You can't go
after
the content. Exactly.
If you want to get sued, Mr. DeRocco,
but he did, and so didn't Tammy Dristolaris went after him about that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think you could even be quoted during one of those meetings. Well, I know we can't censor them, but we should be able to control what they're saying.
What was that again? Would you repeat that?
I know. He said that he understood that he couldn't censor us, but we should be able to control what they're saying.
Richard.
John, just going back to where you said, people in Dracut are afraid to put up yard signs and whatnot. I really do feel like that we live amongst the KGB or the Stasi at points, because I'm telling you, the clip that I recorded for tonight, at first, my parents were afraid to let me play this on TV because of the response from Joe DeRocco.
Exactly.
I convinced them the other way, but that shouldn't be happening. Joey and I, we have been attacked by Brian Bond himself on Facebook.
Really?
He said that we're brainwashed and we need to get a restraining order against you three. It's just, this stuff should not be happening. It's absolutely disgusting.
That's another thing they like to do. They like to try to get restraining orders and go run to the police, make accusations about stuff that's just not true. And then you got to go through getting exonerated, which you do. But the bottom line is you just set up your tape. So let's go to your tape. Let's talk about it and go to your tape.
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie, I'm a little disappointed. I went on a search for the most elusive politician in town. I winded up with nothing, so let's take a look. See how it... Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. My name is Richard Silvio, reporting for What's Happening Dracut, with another Dracut Chronicles report. With the upcoming town elections, I've decided to interview each candidate for both the selectman office and school committee race, and give them 10 minutes to share their views and their side of their campaign, whether they should be elected or not. Well, I've already interviewed Phil Thibault for Dracut Selectman, who is running against the incumbent candidate Joe DeRocco. Now, this segment is dedicated to Mr. DeRocco, as I have not been able to reach him in over 2 weeks of trying. I am here at the town hall where we are going to start our Where's Waldo search for Mr. DeRocco. Joe, are you there? Joe? Joe! Joe, is that you? Joe! Joe? 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 Where is he? Joe? Joe? Mr. Dracut? Joe? Where is this guy? Joe? Selectman Joe Dracut. Oh. You in here, Joe? 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 Joe Dracut, you in here? Well, our next hunt for Joe Dracut takes us here to Veterans Park. We're going to look around, have a little fun, and try to find, where's Joe? Let's take a look over here by the pavilion. Joe? Joe? Mr. Dracut? In the fire hydrant? Nope, he's not there. You'd think so, he was the fire chief. Joe? Joe? Dracut, where are you? Oh, maybe he's over here in the trash can. Let's take a look. Mr. Dracut? Joe? Not there either. Hey, let's take a look. Joe, you there? No. Maybe that empty pie can is his. Who knows? It's getting a little tiresome. Let's take a seat real quick. I'm just trying to find Joe, give him, a fair chance to present his case, but he doesn't want any part of it. Let's head over to the playground, take a look. Off we go into the wild blue yonder. Joe, maybe later on in the summer when the sprinkler pad comes on, he'll be here, have some fun in the sun. Joe, while I'm here, I should have a little fun. Joe, you around here? Thought for sure he'd be down here at the park having some fun. Joe, oh well, looks like he's not going to come. Let's take a look over here. Maybe he's hiding by the slide. Joe? Hey, Joe Dracut. You're under here, Joe? Nothing there. Joe? Well, let's take a look up here. Maybe he's up the rock wall. Joe Dracut! Where are ya? Not there either. Shoot. Let's take a look up the slide. Joe? Joe Dracut! I thought the slide was his favorite part of the playground. Where is he? Maybe he's in here. Joe? Joe, you in here? He's not in there. Let's see, we have a drain pipe over here in the park. Let's see if Mr. Dracut's here. Joe? Joe, you in here? Mr. Dracut? Hello? Joe? Hello? Maybe Joe's down here at the park. Let's take a look. It's getting kind of cold out. I hope he doesn't decide to go in. Joe? Hey, Joe! Huh. Let's see. Let's check over here by the Monahan Park. We even checked at the fire station over there, but no luck. Let's see. Hey, Joe! Oh, another trash can. Maybe he's been in here. Joe Dracut! Nope. Joe Dracut! Hey, Joe! Oh, Joe! Where is he? So I'm continuing my search for where's Joe DeRocco, my apologies. We're over here at the Dracut Historical Society. Let's take a look. Hey Joe, you in the flower bush? It's not there. You know, I really don't know where this guy escapes to all day. Seems as a selectman he'd be around, you know, but apparently not. Joe! Hey, is that you? Just a mannequin in the window. Let's go over here, take a look. Good old Harmony Hall. Many wonderful meetings, you know, happened here in the past. Maybe he's reminiscing by himself in the building. Let's have a look. Joe? Joe, is that you? Closed. Darn. Well, you know, the only question I have is, where is he? So our next search for where's Joe DeRocco takes us to Dylan McInespy Park. Let's see if Joe's over here by the basketball court playing ball, which I hear is his favorite thing to do. Hey, Joe! Joe DeRocco! Selectman DeRocco? Maybe he's hiding under the water fountain. Let's take a look. Mr. Joe DeRocco! I have a few questions I'd like to ask you, Joe. Mr. DeRocco! Yeah, let's take a look. Oh, goodness. Let's come over here. Hey, Joe DeRocco! You hiding under here? Nope. The water doesn't work either. Wow. Let's take a look. Joe? Joe? Maybe if I scored a half-court shot, he'd magically appear. Who knows? But, where is he? You know, in all seriousness and all honesty, Joe, DeRocco, that is, I just want to sit down and talk to you, you know? I just want to ask you a few questions about your campaign and your political career. And, you know, I think as a future voter in the town of Dracut, you know, I represent the rest of the future voters when I say, you know, where are you, Joe? I just want to talk to you. All I want to do is have a nice little friendly conversation about politics in the town of Dracut and possibly learn a little more myself. So, please, give me a call, Joe. Seriously. I just want to talk to you.
Oh, boy. Hey, a little bit of fun, right? Just a little.
You know what? I only have one question, John.
Sure.
Where is he?
I know. Well, he doesn't want to talk to you because he knows you're associated with us. And
maybe after this, I'll get a phone call.
Unfortunately, you're now tainted because you're associated with us, and I feel bad for you, but
it's worth it. It's worth it. It really is.
Thank you very much. So we're going to go on to our next case because we got about 15 minutes left, and there's some good video here that I wanted to get into. Some of it is just about political revenge and what have you. So let's. What should we go to next? Do you want to talk a little bit about the political appointment of the manager?
Well, Phil gets voted in. They said he's going to let Ann Vandal go.
Okay, yeah. So let's hear that one.
It's absurd.
This is
I
an
can't say
interesting
enough.
take.
I'll tell you right now, and this is my opinion, and I'm not sure Joe shares it, but this board changes, and that being that Joe DeRocco doesn't win. It's my estimation that the majority of the board, who I perceive to be the majority of the board, would end up probably going out for a manager search again and not renewing Ann's contract, and that would be a grave mistake for this town. And that's why I'll do anything I can to support Ann at this point. And you know, she deserves another contract. I'd give her one today if I could. You know.
Phil, what say you about that?
Absolutely, categorically false. I will support all the employees of the town of Dracut if elected.
Correct.
To selectmen.
Right, as long as they're doing the job.
Absolutely.
Right.
I was at a building committee meeting today, and Ann Vandal was there. She brought up. I mean, the job she's doing she's doing it very well.
I wanted to play the next one. I wanted to play was the one about where Joe DeRocco goes after the fire department at the ratification of their contract. But I also wanted to play the one about the appointment of the manager, where Jesse flipped completely around and he says, I got the votes. You know, we'll probably save that for the next one. But let's go to the one where Joe DeRocco disparages the fire department because they were picketing out in front of Town Hall. By the way, John Zimini and Phil Thibault were picketing along with the fire department.
I actually did show up before I knew you guys. I was at one of their picketing sessions.
You were? Okay.
I was.
So there you go. There you go. So why don't you hit that one? I think that's BOS Cup 1.
I'm going to say a few things before I vote on it. You know, the firefighters chose to picket. I mean, they said a lot of things, and I made some notes of them, and I really did. I took exception to them. One was this whole board is corrupt, which to me, you know, it's not true. I mean, I think some of us have talked to Mr. Duggan before the contract, and we put some inputs in, and he was trying to stretch this out, and that's what happened. And then the other thing I wrote down is that they said we don't care about public safety. Well, I think they ought to look at what they have.
See,
go
ahead. This is where I just, why don't you continue playing that? Because that's a good thing.
They've got a lot of stuff that they didn't have. I think they've been gaining over the years. You can't do it all at once, but they've been gaining. They made other things, like no one on this board will ever get elected again, that we watch and ignore backroom deals. I mean, you say this stuff, you say it publicly, at some point somebody's going to respond, and it just so happens I'm going to be the one. I think public safety has been all my life I've been in it. I love it, I believe in it, and I think I've done a lot of things to help the firemen, and I think I've done a lot of things to help the police. So for you to say that, it's just out of context. No, I spoke with the union president, he told me that they were frustrated. Well, goddamn, everybody's frustrated. I mean, these things take a long time. It's not the first time it's gone to arbitration. The picketing, it shows solidarity. But believe me, I don't think, it didn't mean beans to me how many people were out there, and I don't know if it meant anything to anybody else on this board. If they did, then they got elected and they're not doing what they got elected to do. I mean, that's what I feel. Do I feel like you deserve the money? Yes, I do. I really do. But at the same token, I don't believe what you did to this board is acceptable. I think it was wrong. And not for me, but I think you owe this board an apology, because I really think what you did was awful. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Well, I'm happy that we finally arrived at a contract. I know it's not where we're supposed to be. I know how hard the firefighters work, and I am embarrassed about how much we pay them. I don't think they owe us an apology. I think we owe them an apology for making them wait all that time to get their contract ratified. There's no reason that they had to come to us and practically beg to have the contract ratified. I hope that they're satisfied with where they are now. I hope in the future we can do more. And I am more than happy to provide any type of a raise to bring you to a level. You're never going to be where you should be. But for what you do for our town, you are always, I hear engines all day long. No longer do firefighters, and I don't think they ever did, sleep. They don't sleep at all. They don't rest for 1 minute. They are always on. And they're risking their lives for us every day. There are fires in Dracut. There are mutual aid fires. They're all over the place. And I think that's the least we can do, is to respect our fire department and our public safety. So
So, you know, we've got a lot of bashing going on Facebook with some comments, and we got some people that are saying things that are kind of disparaging of a young man that's doing a fun piece.
Really,
that got dissed by Joe, and you know, and I just want to say this. You know, they're also disparaging Tony Archinsky. One particular henchmen for Joe, who's been harassing a number of people on Facebook over the years. He did it to Brian Bond, and he continues to do it to other people. And now he's got a buddy that that his wife is on the Board of Selectmen, and he's now disparaging people around town also. But the bottom line is, this is a young man who did a fun piece because Joe didn't respond to him, and now they're hatcheting him, and they're also going after Tony Archinsky because he's going to support you, which we know the next candidate. The next one up is Archinsky. By the way,
they're going
to go after him, but absolutely. But here's the key: it's going to be Matt Sheehan, because Matt Sheehan's which is going to be another subject for the next show when we talk about that segment about how Matt Sheehan went on a show that he wouldn't go on for years. Another hypocrite. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say, John, in regards to receiving criticism, after the death threats over the summer and, sleepless nights that I personally received, doesn't faze me anymore.
Doesn't faze you
let
at
them
all.
say whatever they want. Let them make a fool of themselves.
Exactly.
Because I'm still here and I'm still doing
so,
what I love.
there's henchmen out there, but you know what? They don't understand that when they come on here and they just put us out more. They just give us more advertising, and that's what I like. So,
Bingo.
The stuff I'm doing, I don't really like to bring an opponent on like Dracut Connection and talk about them. As you notice, I haven't mentioned their name very much. But the bottom line is, we have to counter some of this BS that they're throwing out there. You have to. So I want to go to the next thing. One of the things that happened with that cut that Joe, we talked about with the firefighters, where he disparaged the department. And to her credit, Tammy stands up and says how embarrassing it is and how low the salaries were and what have you. And you know what? We raised them up in that contract 2 years ago from almost the very bottom of the Merrimack Valley to 2/3 from the top down. So we didn't move them up very much. Right? We didn't move them up very much. And here's Joe saying, you ought to be appreciative of it. You ought to be apologizing to the board, to this board. Apologizing? And he talks about comments being made that nobody's going to ever get elected. I'm not sure, but I believe that was part of Justin George's speech, by the way, which was one of the most impassioned speeches I've ever heard. Tell us about it, just briefly, Gordy.
He went in front of the board, told them all the things that he went through. I was crying at home. My wife and I were crying at home. And I'll never forget it.
It was one of the most passionate speeches I've ever heard from a firefighter who had been disparaged, kicked around, his family dragged through the mud by the town, all because
that's what happens. He was just telling the truth. And that's what happened.
And he tried to do something at town meeting to get other veterans benefit. Right? When they go
he's going to be a millionaire in not too long from now.
He is going to be a millionaire, and it's going to be you, the taxpayers. By the way, it isn't going to be Joe DeRocco, because from all indications, I don't think Joe DeRocco pays taxes in Dracut. I think everything he's got is already transferred to whoever's going to get it. But the bottom line is, he doesn't pay taxes in town, and it's a shame. It's really a shame that this stuff has to go on. So let's talk a little bit about the rest of the races that are going on in town very briefly. You got a school committee race. Who's in that? Joe Wilkie is the incumbent, which I think he'll top the ticket far and away.
Rebecca Duda?
Rebecca Duda is in there. And
Rosemary Espinal.
Rosemary Espinal. Tell us a little bit about your experience with Rosemary.
So Rosemary, I had a few texts and phone calls with her. She seems like a wonderful person, very upbeat, very spirited. We were going to have an interview, but unfortunately that fell through. I do plan on contacting her again, though, very soon, and try to set that up again so she can have, her equal 10 minutes to present her case.
Exactly. So we'll see if she'll come on maybe next show, which will be the last show before the election. And the other persons that are running out there's 2 library positions that are uncontested to get elected. That's Gretchen Mayall and
the water moderator.
And the water moderator. What about the water moderator? What do we got
there?
They're
after John Zimini, because if you didn't apply for that, it probably would be empty.
Right.
But because you did it, and George admits it on the Dracut Connection.
Yeah. Oh, we have that.
As soon as I found that out,
we have that tape, right?
We do have it.
We have that. Where is it? What number is that?
Number 10, I think.
Oh, go for it. Let's show it. Let's show how this is the hypocrisy of George Bogue, who, by the way, until recently, I had some respect for him, but now he's nothing but a lapdog for Brian Baum. Go for it.
Clever.
Oops. Here we go.
That was one of the things that got me into the race against Zimini. Was it's just, I mean, that speaks to his character and his judgment to me.
I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, because I'm running for an office, and because Brian Baumd put him up to it, right? And Brian Baumd was going to listen, folks. Not for anything. I want to get elected. Believe me, I want to get elected. Anybody here will tell you how highly competitive I am. But I put my name on the ballot because there was no one running, and it's an obscure position. I mean, how many of you out there in TV land even knew that there was an elected position?
I didn't know.
To the moderator. And you're pretty much in touch, right?
I didn't know.
Did you ever know, Richard?
Nope.
So I put my name on there, and not 20 minutes after I'm out, I knew that somebody had already been told. The next day, 2 people run. And there it is right there. He tells you, I did it because John Zimini was running. He wouldn't have run it if it was for anybody else. You want to talk about character, George? It's a shame that your character has gone down the drain. And it really is. It really is a shame. Comes from, you know, I like his family. I like his sons. In fact, one of his sons dated my daughter for a short period of time. And lovely wife, but I think George has just been poisoned by Satan. It's as simple as that, you know? Because now, for them to be sitting on the same set with the guys that they disparaged for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years.
Brian used to do all those jib jabs.
Yeah.
We didn't do that
All
stuff.
the FOIA requests.
I hate to tell Joe and
Vogue, George.
Yeah, that we didn't do that.
Jesse.
Jesse. We never. I don't know why you went on his show, because he's the one that doing all the jib jabs of you guys.
Well, because the bigger threat is Phil and I. The bigger threat to them. And
exactly. That goes to my point. It's only because you.
Right.
You guys are on the board. That's
Get
why.
ready, because they haven't been jabbing at you, but they're gonna. Because
that's fine.
you've come out of the woodwork on this. So, Gordy, I've been asked about the MRI report a couple of times, and we got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and I'd just like to talk about that for a minute. Can you, besides the assignment you already have to do, can you put together just a small or 5-minute thing on some of the takeouts from the MRI report, mostly about the harassment and about the management using the N-word to describe the President of the United States?
Right. So we had, I brought up in a few shows back the survey results, which overall weren't all that terrible. There was some bad stuff in there, but overall, but when you read the comments, additional comments, there was some scathing stuff in there. And I don't even know if we can show those on TV, what the people actually wrote, but I'll put together something for the next show, and we'll show some of the comments.
Phil, do you have anything you want to add before we close out?
That was a full show. That was a full show.
That was a full show. Next week, we're going to talk about the hypocrisy of term limits that George Bogue mentioned while sitting right next to the guy who's running for his 6th term, saying that he shouldn't be elected because we should have new blood. Good job, George. Good job, George. And then we're also going to talk about senior housing and why we haven't got senior housing. We're going to put that in the next show, which is Wednesday. And then we're going to have a plethora of other things, as well as the attack on Rich Cowan by Brian Genest in the Valley Patriot. And he talks about us hitting people. Okay, take it away, Gordy.
All right, folks, as always, we appreciate that you watch our show. Remember, voting's coming up. This starts this weekend, so don't forget, Phil Thibault is the man that you want to vote for selectman if you want change to come in this town. And remember, when it's Wednesday night and it's 6:30, it's What's Happening Dracut. Good night, Dracut.